Hi, my name is Nina. I'm a licensed illustrator and pattern designer, also known as DOED. And in this video, I will show you how to use my brush stem set flowers. In this brush set, you'll find 43 ready-to-use stems. You have 12 flower shapes, 12 flower centers, and 17 stems with leaves that you can combine to create unique flower illustrations. And as a little bonus, I added these 2 postage stem shapes so you can create lovely vintage illustrations. Now, if we go back to the top, you'll also see 6 bonus brushes I included. As an addition, you have this custom flower color palette I made. All these colors work wonderfully together, so it will be easy for you to start without being overwhelmed. Okay, let me show you now how this stem set works. Stems are static, which means that they don't randomly rotate. So if you select a stem, for example this one, adjust the scale, and tap to make a shape, it will be in the same position each time you make a stamp. Now, if you need to move it or rotate it, you can do that by selecting it and positioning it as you like. The other option is to actually rotate the canvas and then position the stem. Just use whatever feels most suitable at the moment. When it comes to flowers, and most of the flower centers, they rotate randomly, which gives them diversity. You can now see how that looks. You can make multiple flowers, and with each stamp you make, you create a different rotation of the flower. Even if you use just one stamp to make a lot of flowers together, they will look rich and diverse. The same goes for most of the flower centers. I'll quickly try this one so you can see how that looks. The only exception are these types of flower centers. They will stay in the same position. So, depending on the flower underneath, you can rotate the canvas and place them as you like. Or you can also select it with a lasso tool and rotate it. At the top of this set, you'll see these 6 bonus brushes. The first one is a mono brush, which I use to create all these elements, so it will be perfect to use if you wish to raise or add something to the stamps. And you also have these 3 paper texture brushes and 2 pattern brushes. Paper texture brushes will give you a beautiful analog overlay to your illustrations. I'll now show you how they look. I'll select some paper color and set the size to max. And in one go, I will cover the whole surface. I will not lift the pen. I'll cover everything in one stroke. It might be too light and you can't see it. I'll just create another example in a darker color so you can more clearly see the results. And the same goes for paper speckles. I'll select a darker color and I will place them by filling the whole surface in one go without lifting the pen. These brushes will give a wonderful final analog look to your illustrations. And finally, let me show you these pattern brushes. They will give some interest and fun to your illustrations, especially if you want to create a more funky look. Unlike with paper texture brushes, with pattern brushes, you don't have to cover the whole surface in one go. You can make multiple brush strokes, you can lift the pen and continue, and the pattern will stay the same. Now let's recreate together this lovely flower postage stamp. If you haven't purchased the set yet, but you want to test it out and follow along, you can download a free sample set by subscribing to my newsletter. The link is down below. My canvas is set to 3000 by 3000 pixels with 300 dpi. I'll turn this example off, and let's start by choosing a background color. I'll go with this yellow color. And I'll now add a paper texture on top of it in a new layer. I'll select a paper color, choose a paper texture brush, and then in one go I will cover the whole canvas area. And now I can set this layer to multiply. In a new layer, I will create a postage stamp. I will select the shape and position it in the center by turning on the snapping. Now what I need to do is create some shade underneath the stamp. I will do that by duplicating it, selecting the bottom one, and coloring the bottom one in black. You cannot see it now, but I will select it and move it a bit right and a bit down so it just sticks out ever so slightly. As you can see now, it looks very sharp, and we want to make it smooth. To do that, I will go to Adjustments and use Gaussian Blur. While it's selected, I just need to pull it with a pen to 4% to make these soft, blurry edges that look like a real shade. This color is too strong for my taste. I want it to look natural, so I will lower the opacity. And now it looks perfect. Okay, it's time to create a flower illustration. I will use this lovely blue color and this stem shape. I can select it and make sure it's positioned in the center. I will open a new layer and select a red color. Now let's find a flower shape and let's stamp it multiple times. Since these shapes rotate, it will not look like a copy-paste. It will look very natural. Now, as you can see, I placed this flower further down to create a better flower composition. But now the part of the stem is sticking out. So what I can do is use the eraser and select the Mono brush and erase that part. Okay, in a new layer, I will now make flower centers. I will use a white color and find the shape I like. I'll adjust the size and place it on the flowers. Okay, this looks wonderful. The flower illustration is complete. And to make it more natural, I will add paper texture overlay. The paper overlay needs to cover just the surface of the postage stamp. And I will do that by going to Layers, finding a postage stamp, tapping on it, and in this menu, I'll tap on Select. As you can now see, the only area that is selected is the postage stamp area, while the rest is covered in these zebra lines, which means it's not selected. In that way, I can create a new layer on top, and in that layer, create a texture overlay that will stay in the boundaries of the selection. I'll use a bit darker paper color, select the paper texture brush, and cover this surface in one go. To finish the look, I'll change the layer mode from normal to multiply. You can now see the subtle paper texture I created. While it's still selected, I will open a new layer on top, set it to multiply, choose a bit darker color, and select paper speckles. In this way, I can add more analog texture to the illustration. It's a bit dark, so I'll just lower the opacity. And once that's all done, I can deselect the selection. And last but not least, let's add some interest to the background by using a pattern brush. In the layers, I'll create a new layer at the bottom. I'll select the same yellow color I used for the background and set this new layer to multiply. And in the brush set, I'll select this lovely pattern brush dots and cover the background. These pattern brushes are a joy to use. To make it more subtle so it doesn't overpower the flower illustration, I will just lower the opacity of the pattern layer. And here it is. The illustration is finished. It's made entirely with my brush stamp set flowers. This is just a glimpse into what you can make, because possibilities are numerous. I hope you'll enjoy using this set, and I would love to see what you'll create with it. The links for purchasing the set and also getting a free sample are listed down below.